Welcome to the Getting High on Leadership series featuring Paul Karasik. Paul is one of America's top management consultants helping leaders succeed. He is the author of 9 books, including Sweet Persuasion and Brilliant Thoughts and Provocative Questions. His insights appear regularly in major publications, and he is one of the most sought-after executive coaches. Paul founded the American Seminar Leaders Association and the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles. He is a popular speaker at national conferences and has been on stages across all 50 states and internationally. Paul's work addresses the question, how can we transform conflict in business into collaboration? With decades of experience in management, leadership, and psychedelics, he brings a unique perspective on personal and societal growth. In this series, we'll be discussing his latest book, Getting High on Leadership, The Leader's Guide to Higher Consciousness. We'll be exploring the concepts, techniques, and mindset required to revolutionize leadership. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Getting High on Leadership series. My name is Sanchez, and we are joined by the author of Getting High on Leadership, Paul Karasik. We are making our way through the book section by section, as we have been for some time now, and today's section is called The Monster in the Road. It can be found on page 82 if you'd like to follow along. And Paul, man, where can we begin with trying to address this monster in the road, this new problem? I think this section takes a more narrative turn towards things and leans on, some of your earlier points in the book on the importance of storytelling and some of the take-home points you can get from a good story.
Yeah, and this is a great story. It's about change. And it's keying off the last chapter, and to a degree, where when we have conflict, so much of the time, it's with people, isn't it?
Yeah, most of the time there's going to be somebody behind whatever that change is, unless it's more like, the car broke down when you were supposed to leave.
Right. The technological, the software.
That could still boil down to people if it was you that didn't take the car in for the regular maintenance, or maybe the last mechanic that was working on it, But you're quick to find the reason why there's someone behind it.
Yeah, there's somebody in this. So in this story, we've created that somebody, and we call him a monster. And the name of the story is The Monster in the Road. And this is where so much of leadership gets into the nastier parts. So much of management, and this is, sometimes you can't take them apart, management and leadership. It's that kind of an issue because most problems in leadership is not about stuff. Most problems in leadership is about people. People who are either causing problems, preventing the forward movement of whatever you want to produce, conflict within the group that creates stillness and lack of progression and involvement of whatever you're doing, bitter feelings, bad emotions, destroys the vision and mission. It's through people. And It's people acting in a way that you don't like. It doesn't even have to be in a way that's bad for the enterprise. You just don't like
back to that ego.
Yeah, back to that ego thing. You just don't like. And so a leader has to have this ability to approach the monster and deal with the monster in the best possible way. And even your best associate, your best colleague is going to become a monster one day. And you're going to be a monster one day. And
everyone's kind of changing that role based on their current life circumstances and how everything else is going.
Being a human, yeah. I mean, it's just going to happen that you're that monster. And so this monster in the story threatens a village in the story. And there were a lot of attempts to deal with the monster so that the village would be safe. I don't want to reiterate the whole story because it's more fun to read it.
Right. But you don't want to take those like you can think in that scenario that you're explaining. You have a workplace issue. There's some hurt feelings. There's something going on. To take a less conscious approach to that, you maybe just lay down a new rule. Okay, this is how it has to be done. Now you do this, and now you stop doing what you were doing. Or maybe you just cut a resource from your team because that's a problem you don't want to address. And I think some of the take-home points in the chapter is really like those extreme reactions, or those kind of or authoritarian ways to solve the problem are not taking into account what that monster is,
No, it's
wants, needs, what led to it being there. You're kind of just whacking the next nail with a hammer, right? Just take that one and this one.
It's like a militaristic approach to leadership. So everybody fails in the story until somebody comes along and realizes that these people that are causing the problem and causing you pain in some way can't be dealt with in a militaristic fashion. And so the town fool becomes the hero in the story, because the town fool focused on consciousness. And
probably because the town was calling him the fool was already because he didn't have as strong of an ego.
Which is probably, good point. Good point. He was simple. But he was called, I think in the story, I don't know if I referred to him, but it's sort of implied, he was a bit of a simpleton, even. But he
just addressed all right, how do I solve this? Yeah.
But he had consciousness. And he had consciousness to know that you're not going to whack-a-mole. You're not going to, every time stuff comes up, you can't go at it with a hammer. And you have to go at it with consciousness. Why is that person a problem? What are they saying? I've got to bring consciousness into that relationship. And that's the only hope. Because that's how you get these dysfunctional groups and companies. I mean, because everybody's been whacked so hard.
That they're afraid to monsters left and right.
Yeah, they're just, and they didn't even deserve it half the time. Yeah. But
I think that this section also builds on the previous one very well, in that, defining how you need to embrace change. Well, it's a pretty big change now if the main road out of your village in this fantasy narrative now has a creature living alongside of it that's going to prevent trade, right? That's a massive change that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. The good and the bad comes into the play. The good and the bad, but the fool, the hero in the story, he's operating from on a whole different paradigm or reality, which is consciousness, and saying, I don't need to go there with a sword. I need to go there with consciousness.
Right, and really assess the situation.
And really see, who is this monster? And how can I become more how can I maybe he can be a hero for the village. Maybe, he could protect us, not just
become a blessing rather than a curse.
Blessing. Yeah. Yeah. And that's pure consciousness, right? I mean, that was the solution. He didn't do it. He didn't do it through force.
And then I think that's a good story to take, to keep in mind, right? And take to heart as you're handling change in your own businesses or life or personal situation where you have folks following or relying on you, that you don't want to always just slay every change that comes up. You do have to think about it and have some consciousness, and don't take that, maybe the managerial actions that we talked about even earlier in the show, and make sure you have some of those leadership actions going on too.
Yeah, and again, I want to emphasize here that this is about people, right? So it's not so much about consciousness and how to come up with a solution to this issue. It's about the problem child. It's about the person on the team that's, according to yours view, is not doing it right in some way, and threatening you, and threatening the outcome that you're attached to, and threatening the outcome that you're going to get attaboys for. and threatening the outcome that may mean more money or more whatever for that person. So it's easy to go, oh God, you're the enemy. No, not if we were in higher consciousness, we wouldn't see that person. We'd see that person not trying to slay us or get in the way or hurt our village. We'd say, like, what's going on with them? Let me understand this monster a little bit. Let me communicate with the monster. Let me
and eventually put it to work again, right? as you smooth over those unknowns, suddenly the village is functioning again, and maybe with a new aspect.
Well, he says, finally, Jack gazed at the monster with love and appreciation. The monster smiled back with a smile big enough, smiled back with enough warmth and affection to convince the villagers that the monster was now a blessing to the village rather than a curse.
Right.
360.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have many scenarios coming up in my head from previous business endeavors. One in particular, to share a quick story, is a corporate company that was vacuuming up and acquiring all of their competitors. They had all the steam and the money that you would think you need to be successful in their industry, but they were never addressing those monsters in the right way. Instead, they would just slay them and slay them and slay them. And the change or the new ideas that were brought up internally were just cut at the knees. Nobody speaks up. We know what is going on here. We're the leaders. And I'm happy to say today that company is completely gone. They failed entirely after acquiring many, 10 million plus companies and being so like almost too big to fail. But then having that inner structure where they were just unable to really get the people working, even though they had all the stuff, it really can fall apart and that's a massive scale version of this. But even in our relationship, right? Like, oh, something happened, and if something happens in my life and I'm busy or we can't record or something's going on with you, it's like, all right, we got to address that. It's not like, all right, now it's time to get upset because we're on a schedule. It's more like, all right, like, what's going on? We got to address it and smooth things over and get back to the mission, but not without having that awareness of the other people involved and that consciousness of what they're bringing to the table and what they may be experiencing.
You make me realize and think about it. It's like accomplishment is 80% consciousness and 20% stuff. Because if you had all that stuff all around, it wouldn't do anything unless you had people. Whatever that stuff is, whatever you're selling or building or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That the person, the bad leader, or I don't want to say bad, unconscious leader.
There you go. Yeah.
Is like only responding to that and living on that, and so nothing ever really. It's those companies are like so depressing too. I don't know. I've walked into.
Oh yeah. Like, it's hard to be there, and there's a mindset and a culture for everybody where they're just they're like living in a colorless world. It's just black and white and gray within the company.
Yeah. It really is. It's sad. I mean, you can feel it, when you walk into those environments where, and then I've walked in actually a software company in I think it was in Maryland, and the vibe was completely different. What was it? Everybody had, if you wanted to bring your dog to work, you could. The woman I was meeting, she was the vice president of the company, and she had her baby in the room with us. She had just had.
Suddenly all those people things, all those creature comforts that
and the vibe was,
need.
You can imagine, and you can imagine the vibe.
The motivation and the kind of the passion of those employees.
Everybody was, it was like, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to come back. I mean, like, I was like, can I work here?
Yeah.
And because there was consciousness that people are the most important thing in anything, in accomplishing anything external. And if we take care of our people at this level, and invite them to be whole people in our office, not I'm this there and I'm that there, but your mother, bring the baby in. You Doug, bring your dog. Of course, they had the regular stuff, a workout room and all this other stuff that a lot of companies do. But I was impressed with the consciousness, that the leaders of the company were thoughtful enough to say, hey, it's about people enjoying what they're doing every day and in the environment. And that's how we're going to attract the best people to this company. That's how we're going to retain our best people and not just have them coming through.
Yes. Yeah, man. No. Well put there, and a great narrative to take to heart around change and how to deal with the people and the potential monsters around you, or maybe even realizing when you're the monster and trying to communicate what
on certain days, yeah.
So folks, definitely take this in and look at the situations around you and how it may apply. Feel free to follow along with us throughout the rest of the journey. Start from the beginning or pick and choose from any episodes that catch your interest. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Getting High on Leadership series. If you have any questions, you can comment below or send them in via email to paul@paulkarasik.com. Follow him on Instagram at PK_the conversation. Find out more at wholesalerinstitute.com and psychedelic-awakening.com. The Getting High on Leadership series is produced by Rob Sanchez and Apartment 113, which can be found at apartment113.com and followed on Instagram at APT_113.